Earlier this hour, President Donald Trump announced a significant deal between the United States and the United Kingdom. So far, there are few details available, but both leaders agree it will be good for both countries. So for more on this, we've reached Timothy Brightbill in Washington. He is an international trade attorney and partner at Wiley Ryan LLP. Thank you for taking time to join us today.
Arthi, thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
So first, let's take a look at the announcement that we saw unveiled by the U.S. President. And of course, we know the U.K. Prime Minister spoke on the phone as well. What do you make of the initial reactions to this deal that is yet to be finalized, we should add?
Yes, we haven't seen all the details or paper on this yet, but it appears to be a solid step forward by the administration, potentially moving us from a trade war posture and back toward a more normal trade relationship with a key U.S. ally. So although we don't have the details yet, it does seem like a solid step in the right direction.
You know, part of what is coming out now in terms of those details that I'm reading here, reports suggesting that the car industry will see U.S. tariffs immediately slashed to 10% from 27.5%. Levies on steel and aluminum will reduce to 0%. British government said on Thursday that as part of this economic deal with the United States, it may also lead to a corridor when it comes to aluminum and steel. What do you make of that, and how might Canadians, do you imagine, be listening into that as the U.S. is largest trading partner?
Yes, of course, Canada is going to be paying close attention if this really is a first framework agreement, sort of setting the terms for deeper and more detailed negotiations to come over the next couple of months. So you're right, we're seeing details, perhaps reductions in automotive tariffs, things on steel and aluminum. We do have concerns there because, of course, steel subsidies continue to exist in the United Kingdom, and part of the goal is to address trade barriers, not just tariffs. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out in the months ahead. But again, it's an important step. We also expect digital trade will likely be covered, at least in the framework, with negotiations to come. The United States has been targeted by digital services taxes, and hopefully this will lead to the eventual removal of those in the UK. So these are all things I think that Canada can monitor in order to try and reach its own deal to move us into a better trade posture with our neighbor to the north.
In terms of what we know at this point, was this an entire overhaul of any sort of trade agreement between the UK and the US, any sort of previous understanding, and just how much of a difference will this make? Is it more beneficial to the US than the UK?
Well, I think it's still too early to say. I would note that the first Trump administration got fairly far along on a full-fledged free trade agreement with the United Kingdom several years ago. And so it may be that the negotiators were able to draw on elements of that. But there was no and is no full free trade agreement between the United States and the UK. For Canada, of course, we do have USMCA in place, negotiated by the first Trump administration. So there's a lot to draw on there. Of course, there are things to be improved. There are ways to reduce tariffs. There are ways to tackle non-tariff barriers and other issues. But there's a great starting place from USMCA that's already on the books.
In terms also of tactics that we're watching there, I was listening in closely to the remarks from the U.S. President, and he started by saying it's truly one of our greatest allies, perhaps the greatest ally. And it almost felt like a nudge towards Canada. And we know our Prime Minister was there just a few days ago. Wondering what you make of the sort of tactic or strategy that may be employed even in these announcements.
Well, I wouldn't read too much into it. I think the president obviously does value the relationship with the United Kingdom and wants to get negotiations with many other countries off on a strong first step to say, if you want to have a deal with us, here are some of the terms that you're going to have to meet. But I think we are hopefully moving past some of the barriers between the United States and Canada. I think the meeting a few days ago went well. And let's hopefully move past the rhetoric and get to the substance of tariffs and trade barriers. I mean, there are so many U.S. companies that have facilities or integrated facilities and supply chains with Canada, and that is vital to both of our economies. So I'm confident that the administration will move past the talk and actually get to the substance with Canada and with other trading partners in the near future.
And finally, Timothy, I wanted to ask you, is this sort of the start or beginning perhaps of the end of the ongoing global trade war that essentially has been intensified under Donald Trump? And I'm wondering how much the economic downturn that you've seen as a result of it in the past several weeks may have played into it.
Well, I do think it is a very solid first step. So it's too soon to tell. There's a lot of negotiating to do. Ambassador Greer and others in the administration have a lot of work on their hands in the coming months. But I do think the administration is committed to moving forward. I think they want to see the economy strong and growing. And I think they want to move back toward solid relationships with our closest allies. And that does include Canada, for sure.
Okay. Timothy, thank you for your initial thoughts on what we heard this morning. That is Timothy Brightbill in Washington. Thanks.